You are watching the New American Media. If you're tired of the other stuff, take a look at thenewamericanmedia.com. All right, everybody, welcome back. Thank you very much for sticking around. My name is Brian Engelman. This is thenewamericanmedia.com. If you are listening to this after the fact on YouTube, please click subscribe, youtube.com/thenewamericanmedia. Make sure you're following us at American_media_, like our Facebook page, The New American Media, and check out our home base, thenewamericanmedia.com. We are back. We are still joined with Dan Johnson of PANDA. Dan is here talking about the NDAA, and it's a pretty important issue that I think you said 95% of the people you talk with don't seem to really understand that it's out there and that it could be massively creepy, way past what the Patriot Act has done, way past what FISA has done. In fact, I guess they're all kind of in the same grab bag of horrific things. Close your eyes, reach your hand in, and you're not going to like what happens. Nothing good's in there. What do you have? You have lobsters and scorpions and I don't know, tarantulas and snakes. Whatever you're reaching in and grabbing, it's not going to be good. So I guess it's probably in that same category. Dan, on the previous segment that we were just getting into, you were talking about the NDAA will typically have a few certain responses that you've noticed. Every time you bring it up, there are three main responses that people tend to give. Can you get into that list of three and what people are supposed to comment back with?
Yeah, and this is not generally people, which have a much more varied set of responses, but rather politicians and people who voted for the NDAA or directly support someone who voted for the NDAA. These are people who seem to have much more canned responses to it. And you will face three steps. They may not be in order, and you may not face all the steps. But these are the three that I've seen. Number one, I'd like to call baffle with BS. And this is when your elected representative stands up in front of you. You ask the question, well, hey, you voted for NDAA. Why? And he'll proceed to say a lot of things, or she will proceed to say a lot of things that sound very smart. But in reality, if you were to record that conversation and look back over it, there was a lot of big words that meant a whole lot of nothing. And this type of baffle with BS, I've seen it's common over and over again, as we were just discussing Alan West's response to a high school student who was more awake and informed than many of the people in that room asking about NDAA. His response was, well, if you look at page 657, it doesn't allow the United States to arrest Americans. This is for Al-Qaeda. To which my personal response would be, sir, there is no page 657. NDAA is not that big. And your general response to this, just know the law. Because if you know the law and you see past their intimidation, I'm smarter than you, then you will be able to respond to every one of their attacks in this first step. And if also you bring copies of the law, and copies in plural, of the law, then you can show people around you that their representative is lying to them when he says that the NDAA is good, or she says the NDAA is good. That's the first step. The second step, running away. This can be anything from, as I've seen in several videos, the representative will say, okay, next question, and leave you hanging. The representative will have local security or incite the crowd to remove you from the building. They will duck inside a car. They will do whatever is necessary to avoid your question at all costs.
Okay, let me slow down. Let me slow it down. Number one, I think the idea of having a printed out version of this in front of you to carry it and show them is fantastic. The baffle them with BS cannot work when you can't point to the page that you're falsely referencing. And this is the beauty. This is why we reached out to Ben Swan over with Fox 19 Cincinnati, who had a chance to interview Mr. Obama, and he had his 5 minutes. You know, Mr. Obama really wants those electoral votes from Ohio. He would like to pay it. He would like to speak to the Cincinnati market. So in that 5 minutes, there was nowhere for Mr. Obama to run. And what he tried to do was baffle him with BS. It was a lot of, I'll let Ben kind of get into the explanation of it, but I'm witnessing these things that you're saying as well. The intimidation factor, I wanted to talk about the intimidation factor because we recently had a brush with LAPD and the intimidation factor of what they're trying to go for, doing completely illegal things, totally abusing the power. And when the politicians try to move on like you didn't ask the question and disrespect you that way, or to call you an idiot and say there's no such thing, regarding the NDAA, you are absolutely correct. I have seen all of these things from politicians, from Allen West to Barack Obama, and I've seen the intimidation right in my face at the LAPD, and it's really insulting, Dan. It's really insulting.
And speaking on the LAPD, a recent article on Russia Today, where I get a lot of my news, besides, of course, Reality Check, but that only comes on so often.
And the newamericanmedia.com and PANDA.
And the New American Media. Okay, I go to your site sometimes, Brian.
Yeah, well, and yours is pandaunite.org, correct?
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yep.
Continue.
And it's chronicling LAPD in particular, police brutality. And talking about a skateboarder who's been beaten.
Oh, yeah.
And talking about several other things.
Kelly Thomas getting murdered by the Fullerton police and the cops being charged with murder. Yeah, pretty disgusting stuff. Kelly Thomas being murdered by the Fullerton police. Yes, you're right.
Mm-hmm. So that kind of intimidation technique. And you'll see it in a much less violent situation. You'll see it as very prevalent. Here's a tip. When you stand up and talk to your representative and ask him why he voted for NDAA or why he supports someone who voted for NDAA, don't sit down. Stand up and stay standing until he has absolutely answered your question to its fullest extent. Because a lot of people will stand up, ask the question, and then they'll feel the intimidation and the attention of everyone in the room shift to them, and they'll sit down.
Right. So number one is baffle them with BS. Number two is ignore the question. Did we get to three yet? Because we got a minute or two. And then
we have not gotten to three yet.
Okay.
Number three is they will quote the law, and they will quote this portion of Section 1022. It says, and I quote, now I can't quote it. Basically, it says.
what is that?
You do this for so long, you see so much of the language. Eventually, you just go, heck, and now I remember it. Quote: the requirement to detain citizens of the United States, or the requirement to detain does not extend to citizens of the United States.
Oh, perfect. That's good. We're all covered then, right?
Except for the fact that if I were to tell you that you're not required to wear a shirt in a building, you could still wear a shirt. You could still wear a coat. You could probably even come in a parka and snow pants and wouldn't be breaking the law. Not required gives the military the option to detain you, and that is exactly what you come back with.
Okay, phrase that one more time. Quote it one more time, and how it's trickily worded by fantastic lawyers from Ivy League colleges who may have been financed by Goldman Sachs. Who knows? What is the phrasing again? The exact phraseology there?
The phrasing and the language.
1022 of the NDAA.
Yeah, 1022 of the NDAA. This is a piece of it.
This is the one that Republicans and Democrats are going to try to sell you on because they pretty much unanimously supported it, except for Dr. Paul and maybe as a handful of others, perhaps Kucinich and whatnot.
Exactly, and it states the requirement to detain in this section does not extend to citizens of the United States. There's another one for lawful resident aliens. And the response to that, and you can quote this if you'd like, is if I don't require you to wear a T-shirt into a building and you still wear a T-shirt, are you breaking the law? No, you are not. That option still exists. And that's where your politician, you will have showed him or her up in front of whatever audience that you are in front of. If you're able to get through those three, you will show that that person you will probably show to about 10% of people in the room because they think he's their rock star or she's their rock star. But you will at least show that this person does not know the law, does not know the Constitution, and will not follow the Constitution they swore to uphold, defend, and protect.
Against
all enemies, foreign and domestic.
So you mean we could have traitors? You mean we could have traitors in this country that don't believe in the rule book? Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
And it does not say all enemies, American citizens, and suspected terrorists. It says all enemies, foreign and domestic. And it doesn't say, and you can ignore the Fourth Amendment. It says all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Okay. All right. Beautiful. Well then, Dan, give out your website one more time. What we're going to do is we'll hit a reset. What I'm going to do is I will connect with you via Skype. We will drop this call in a second. I'll call you back in 6 seconds, and we will bring in Ben Swan in this next segment. I want to keep you in here as I talk with Ben because I think he's been doing some good work, and especially the fact that he got to ask the president about the NDAA and kind of talk shop regarding his response. I think that would be a great opportunity right there. So why don't you give out the name of your website one more time, and then we'll reconnect via Skype in a second, okay?
Yep. I spoke with Ben earlier yesterday, and I am looking forward to speaking with him again on the show. Our website, pandaunite.org. That's pandaunite.org for all things NDAA.
All right, Dan, we'll be right back in just a second here on the TNAM radio network. What we're doing is talking about civil liberties today. It shouldn't be complicated, but it kind of is from time to time. Not sure the easiest way to get past this, but we're going to try. So we'll be right back on the other side. This is thenewamericanmedia.com.
You are listening to the Agree to Disagree program on thenewamericanmedia.com.